other foot. She's like, I can put my own shoes on. And I thought, well, yeah, but not right. I mean, not by yourself. And that's what I want to talk about in today's episode of Leading Leaders.
Think storytelling's just for bedtime? Nah, it's the secret sauce for business magic. Stuck in a rut with bland pitches and yawning clients? Enter Boost Your Business with Story Power. 6 weeks of epic storytelling training. It's like leveling up in a video game but for your career. Master the art of narrative and watch connections blossom like a viral TikTok. Simple, impactful, and game-changing. Ready to transform your biz vibes? Dive in now and make storytelling your superpower.
I'm J
Subscribe
Loren
now
Norris
for
with
access
Leading
to our
Leaders
extensive
podcast.
media library of leadership lessons
There are
promoting
13
faith,
grandkids.
family,
There are
and
a
freedom.
whole lot of them that are absolutely fascinating to watch them grow and learn and watch what they do. The ideas that they come up with, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch the things that they are firmly convinced that they can do all on their own. And I've seen ponytails going all kinds of different directions, and I've seen toys that have been taken apart and put back together with half the pieces. And I've seen bicycles where the wheels will probably never go on again. Brakes on a bicycle that went downhill, and then the brakes got tangled up in the spokes because they didn't put the bolt back in the handbrake when they put it. Yeah, it was a mess, complete mess. But they were determined to do it all on their own, as if there was some kind of prize or brownie points for having done it all on their own with no help. It's like, if I try to do it all by myself and I fail, I still win. To some degree, there's truth in the power of that independence, that willingness to say, I'm going to dive in, I'm going to do it, I can finish this, I don't have to have your help. And there's actually a place in life that model, mimic, master, multiply. Somewhere in that mastery requires that you demonstrate that you got this, that you've watched the exhibit, you've paid attention to your mentor, you've mastered the necessary steps, processes, procedures, tools, tips, tricks, all of that, and you're all good on your own. In fact, it's at that point like your black belt test. You don't just walk in day one of martial arts and go, I'm ready for the test. It doesn't work like that. In fact, if you tried to get your black belt the first day in class, you would probably get beat up pretty significantly, because the people you have to at least present yourself to, present yourself as an opponent to, fight against, they're not going to take it easy on you. If you're ready for your black belt test, you better have studied the lessons. And again, you could do that on your own, but it'd be kind of crazy. You could get yourself hurt really bad. Now, there's a tension and there's a balance to that. On the one hand, the independence, the initiative, the work ethic, the self-starter that says, I'm going to go do this, and I don't care if anybody's there to help me or not. By golly, I'm going to get it done. There's a lot of merit to that. There's a lot of value to that. In fact, it's one of the things, in my opinion, is really missing from today's workforce. The self-starter, the initiative. I was working with a client just recently, and he said, I've got this person who's got all this history and all this experience. They know our industry better than I do, but they won't do anything until I tell them to do it. I mean, they know what should be done. They are happy to correct me when I do it wrong or could have done it better, but they won't get up and do it on their own at all until I practically beg them to or make them to. They've lost the initiative. They've lost the self-starter. I don't know if they're just waiting on retirement or they're unmotivated. I don't know what it is, but that lack of initiative. Well, there's a whole lot of people on the beginning end of that scale, on the beginning end of the job or the industry, that they probably should get a clue that I appreciate your ambition. I'm a little nervous about your anxiety, though. If you're still a little trepidatious about just moving into the job because you don't want to make a mistake. I mean, great that you're ambitious, but if you're still anxious about doing what needs to be done to figure it out, that could be a problem. Because generally, that's where fight or flight comes in, and it usually becomes freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah, you're either going to dive into it without any hesitation, or you're going to try it, realize you're in over your head, and then stop. Or you're just going to do nothing while you wait for someone else to tell you what to do. I remember sitting in a room listening to a man for probably 45 minutes, maybe an hour, tell us about how he built wealth and how the wealth that he built missionaries, missions. He paid for missionaries to go on missions. He built their entire campaigns. He built up churches in different places from the ground up, significantly invested in the church that we were attending at the time. In fact, the church that he was standing in, he said, if it hadn't been for the sacrifices that my family and I had made, I'm not sure this building would be standing here. And he talked about all the wonderful things that he had done and all the money that he had made and all the money that had been through his hands because of his stewardship. And honestly, I was very impressed. And I walked up to him after the meeting. Several other people had gone to say hi. And I said, I feel like God's telling me I need a millionaire mentor because I grew up with a poverty mindset, and I know that's got to shift. I know that has to change. I just don't know how to change it. I don't know what that should be. I don't know what things in my mind I'm thinking about completely wrong. He never completed a sentence. He looked at me, laughed in my face, and turned around and walked out the door. And I turned to the guy who went to the meeting with me and I said, well, I guess that's not the mentor I was seeking. See, there's a couple of things you got to know. Number one, it's never too early to ask for help. You may need, in fact, sometimes, often, most of the time, I would advise you do your homework before you start the project. Before you get started, do a little research, ask some people. You can't become an expert at something you've never done, but you could certainly get a good step forward. You could get a little training in it. I mean, even doctors, after their undergrad and their graduate degrees, start on their postgrad degree, they still intern. They still work under someone else. They still practice medicine on a regular basis. They still have to have continuing education. So do accountants and bankers and therapists and mechanics and master electricians and plumbers. Whatever the field is, by the time you reach that master level, what you realize is that I've learned a lot along the way and I'm still not done learning. There's more to learn, which means there's someone who knows something I don't yet know. That's what a mentor is for. That's what a coach is for. But see, a lot of people think, well, I've got to finish high school, I've got to finish college, and then I've got to get my degree, and then when I get in my job, then I'll get a mentor, then I'll get an internship, then I'll get... Look, if you can start an internship when you're in middle school, do it. If you can start an internship when you're in high school, do it. If you can find a mentor that will speak into your life, that will tell you life lessons that are probably less expensive when you hear them rather than live them. I had an uncle tell me one time, a smart man learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from everybody else's. If you want to be wise, you're going to need a mentor. So let me say that again. It's never too early to ask for help. There's never a time in the life cycle of an event, an incident, a test that you're going to be facing. It's never too early to say, I think I got this, but I really would like some help. People call it remedial training. Look, if you want to be a master at something, get all the practice you can. My speech clients, I tell them, the first thing I want you to do is write out your story word for word. I do not want you to memorize it. I want you to write it out word for word so that you can look at what you've said. And sometimes it's better if you just transcribe it. Speak it to a video and have a system or a person type it out word for word, and then look at the words that came out of your mouth. Record yourself and listen to the words that came out of your mouth and ask yourself, if I were reading from a script, would I use the same words? Now, I do have some clients that love to start with writing an entire script. Probably not the best practice, because you're never going to speak it like you write it. Just a true statement. That's what a mentor is for. It's never too early to ask for help. Second part of that truth, though, it's almost never too late to ask for help. I know a lot of people in their 50s and 60s who've gone back to college. Crazy, right? They've started new careers. They're starting over, maybe starting a new hobby. Maybe they've taken up painting or piano or trombone. I don't know. But at some point in life, they realize that's something I wish I had learned, and I haven't yet, and I want to know it now. Maybe it's about investing. Maybe it's about gardening. I don't know. The things in your life that are important to you, though, don't just dismiss them because you're old. Go through the list of all the people who are in their 50s and 60s when they started their career. Colonel Sanders is a good example. Sam Walton is another example. There are multi-billionaires in this world that went from trotting along in life to all of a sudden the hockey stick of their life changed because some aha moment allowed them to ask the key question they needed to ask, and somebody said, I know the answer you're looking for. I mean, you could do it on your own, but why? Let me tell you the answer. Ego. Most people who try to do it all on their own, they don't want any help at all. It's purely pride. It's ego. It's them looking at themselves going, if I can do this, then I can prove something. Who are you trying to prove it to? I mean, who cares if you fail 55 times? It's almost never too late to ask for help. You know when it is too late to ask for help? When you've done irreparable damage. When you've done something you cannot undo. When you've broken a relationship you've spent years to build. When you've destroyed the trust that you can't reestablish. When you've squandered funds that took forever to earn or to save. Now think of the number of people who took their retirement account and they cashed it out on a hobby. And they spent 50, 60 years putting that money in the retirement account, and now it's just gone. There's nothing they can do about it, and they can't get it back. Well, the challenge now is, how will you recover? How will you survive now that your retirement account is gone? That kind of mistake usually happens when you try to do it on your own. Day traders, anyone? How many people signed up for those multiple types of accounts and studies and apps and online tools to become a day trader and lost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars? The people who made the most amount of money were the ones on the backside of your foolish trades and the people who sold you the apps and the tools. And I know a lot of people who squandered a lot of money. Some who never even used the tools, some who used the tools and lost everything they had in retirement. It's almost never too late to ask for help. But then there are those times when life gets away from you. And I don't just mean time passes and you look at your watch and go, oh my gosh, is it really that late already? I'm talking about life slips away. Last breath, last relationship. The divorce is final. There's no chance of recovery. But if you'd asked for help 6 months ago, if you'd got that chronic disease in check 5 years ago, if you'd realized there were signs of a heart attack that were almost 6 years running and you never took care of that, it's almost never too late to ask for help. But if you don't ask for help, you may find you're in a place where it's too late. I can't get the job back after I said what I said. I can't get the relationship back after I did what I did. I didn't realize I needed help. I was talking to someone just recently who said, I've been trying to get my life on the straight and narrow. I've been trying to stop all these things that I've been doing, but I've got this person in my life, this potential spouse that, man, I really want them to be in my life, but they're still doing all the things I'm trying to get free from. And I'm wondering how long I need to wait before I decide to move forward and hope they change or move on from the relationship. And I said, you've already decided. The question now is, will you pull the trigger? Will you act? You realize you can't go forward with getting your life right as long as this person holds a higher priority than getting your life right. You're going to have to make a tough choice. You may have to say bye for now. You may have to say bye for good. But if you don't say goodbye, it's not going to be good. That's a tough choice. It's almost never too late to ask for help. But sometimes it is too late. And in that moment, when you realize it, when you realize if I'd gotten help with this, my car wouldn't be on fire. If I'd gotten help with this, my house wouldn't be on fire. My relationship wouldn't be on fire. My life wouldn't be on fire. My health wouldn't be on fire. If I had asked for help when I realized I thought I had this, but I didn't. Now go back to what I said a while ago. Why do people not ask for help? Ego, pride. They don't want to be told, perhaps you messed it up. You did it wrong. You should stop doing it like that and try something else. How many times will you do it that way before you realize doing it that way is not going to get it done? I know. There are a million applications to that statement. There are a lot of different things that we've done wrong. Can you imagine putting a puzzle together with all the pieces facing the table? You can't see them. You don't know what the picture is. You don't have the box. You just have all the puzzle pieces. They might have come from 4 different puzzles. And that's what it's like when you don't have a mentor, when you don't have a guide, when you don't have somebody who can walk you through that process and go, hey, hang on. Let me tell you what you're doing wrong. There was a season that we decided to do all of our own marketing and make our own t-shirts. In fact, we still have the t-shirt press and the hat press to make our own t-shirts and our own hats. But when that saga started, I wasted a lot of resources. I bought a lot of t-shirts. I started off with some pretty cheap t-shirts. And I would make a transfer with the little Walmart packet, and I'd print it out and I'd put it on there, and it had a little shiny box around it, and the image looked like garbage. And I was like, and I'd try again and again, and I asked for instructions, and I'd ask for help, and I'd do everything I could, and I couldn't get a pretty image out of it. And I thought, well, if it's the cheap transfers or the cheap t-shirts, I'll get better t-shirts. And I got more expensive t-shirts. And then I thought, well, maybe it's my home iron. It's just not hot enough. That wasn't it. I paid for a big t-shirt press and still didn't get any better t-shirts. And so then I thought, well, if it's not the t-shirts and it's not the iron or the press, then it's got to be the transfers. And so I bought a big box. When you buy professional transfers, you have to buy 1,000 at a time. So I had a giant box of professional transfers. Cost me way more than I ever wanted to spend on t-shirt transfers. And I printed them. And I couldn't get the paper off the t-shirt. You put the transfer down and you press it down, and then I couldn't peel the backing off the shirt. Forget the little shiny square. Forget the ridiculous looking edges and the loss of color. No. I couldn't even get the paper off the t-shirt now. I had to ask everybody in town for help. And usually when I'd go to them and say, hey, I need some help with this t-shirt transfer thing. This is the result I'm getting. And they'd be, well, you should just bring them to us. A lot of help you are. I want to learn how to do them so that I can do them myself. They're like, we don't want the competition. Why don't you just bring your art to us? No help, no advice, no mentorship, nothing. So finally I got frustrated with that one t-shirt that I tweezers, bleach, soaked it in water, scraped it with a razor blade, still never got the paper off that stupid shirt. So I finally said, I'm just going to scrap it. I'm done. I called the company I bought the professional t-shirt transfers from, and I said, listen, I need my money back. That was a lot of money. I will send you back all the ones that I have, but these things are garbage and I don't want another one. And the guy on the other side of the phone said to me, did you pop and stretch it? I said, did I? Who's he? What's it? He said, did you pop and stretch it? I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. All I know is I've wasted a lot of t-shirt, a lot of ink, and a lot of time, and I still have garbage for results, and I want my money back. And he said, while I have you on the phone, let's make another one. Really? Another one? I just told you how frustrated I am and all the money that I've lost. And he's like, well, turn your press on while we're talking. And so I pulled out a t-shirt and I pulled out a transfer and I printed a nice image on it. And he said, now let's go ahead and preheat the t-shirt. And I went, oh, you're supposed to do that? He said, well, yeah, we want to make sure it's nice and smooth. And if that fabric's a little hotter, it'll take the image better. Ha! Maybe that's the secret I was looking for. So I preheat the t-shirt. And then I put the transfer down. And he said, now what's your transfer temperature set on the machine? And I told him, and he said, crank it up. All righty then. We cranked that sucker up. I could start to smell the smoke. He said, now, when I tell you to, I want you to pull that platen down and lock it. And I pulled it down and I locked it. And I set the little timer, because that's what the box says. He says, I'll tell you when it's time to pull it up. And I'm thinking, this is like grits on an oven on a stove in a different place. This is cooking for a minute. I'm literally seeing smoke coming off my shirt now. He said, now put your phone on speakerphone and lay it down beside there, because you're going to have to listen by instructions. You're going to need both hands. So I put my phone on speakerphone, I lay it down, I grab the top of that platen. I am ready at any second, and he's still stalling. I'm waiting for the whole thing to burst into flames. Finally he says, all right, lift that up. When you do, grab both sleeves, pull as hard as you can. I did. And that piece of paper that I scraped, that I soaked, that I pulled on with tweezers, when I pulled that with a razor blade, went to the floor. And I went, what just happened here? Because I pulled on the sleeves. That was it. All I did was pull on the sleeves and the transfer came off. He said, now what does it look like? I said, ridiculous, because it's all out of shape now, because I pulled on the sleeves and now that part of the image is like bigger than my head. He said, pull the rest of it until it matches. Now what does it look like? I said, well, now it's not distorted anymore, but my shirt looks like a 5X. He said, that's okay. That'll come out in the wash. He said, what I want you to do now is look really close at the image. Is there a shiny box? No, there's no shiny box. He said, good. He said, does the image look like it's sitting on top of the fabric, or is it woven into the fabric? I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks like it's woven into the fabric. He goes, then you done it right. What did I do? He said, you popped it, and then you stretched it. And you let the fabric not sit on the surface, but soak into the fibers. And I went, that's the $1 million answer. All the time and all the money that I've wasted trying to make these good t-shirts, that's the secret. That's what changes everything. Any one of those other people who've done that process knew that answer, but they weren't going to give it up. Why? They had no financial incentive. He did. I was buying professional transfers from him. He had a good reason to make sure that I had all the information that I needed. Look, there's going to be a time in life that you're going to be needing help. You're going to ask someone for their insight. And like my millionaire mentor would be, they're going to laugh in your face and walk away. And they may have just cause. They don't want you as a competitor. They don't feel like they can handle you as a mentor. I've had people that I've had to straight up say, sorry, I'm not qualified to take you where you want to go. And I've had people where I've had to honestly say, I don't think you and I are going to get through this relationship very well. We're not a good match for that. Now, if you've got an honest mentor, if you've got a coach with integrity, not just an empty bank account, but with integrity, who says, I'm not just looking to get your money, I want to get you the results you're looking for. I've literally handed back a credit card and issued a refund before we inked the contract. A paid in full contract. But something they said in that last couple of minutes right after we agreed to the deal caused me to think this is not going to work well. I can't in full integrity do this. You're asking me to be someone I'm not, and I will be asking you to be someone you're not, and I'm not up for that. Look, if your coach, if your mentor has that kind of integrity, pursue that relationship. Let me be honest with you though, sometimes that's going to mean you're going to get your toes stepped on. Sometimes you're going to ask for advice that you really don't want. And sometimes you're going to get advice that you desperately need, but you don't really want. I recently had to tell a client in front of their spouse, the problem is you're rude. What? You ask why it's not working. That's why it's not working. I'm just telling you. And you got a blind spot. You're overlooking this when you could have changed it. Huh. Well, they don't like hearing that. Do you want the truth? Do you want to make progress? Or do you want to make excuses? You don't get to make both. You can't make excuses and progress. Pick one. A good coach or a good mentor is going to tell you that. Now, I can tell you, I'm still looking for that millionaire mentor, someone who has managed big money in their own life. They've gone from broke to wealthy, and they know what the process looks like. They know what the procedure looks like. They know what the mental roadblocks look like. They know how to change the mindset to get to the next level. Not just earning more money, but how to make that money make money. How to change those things. I've had a couple of those people close to my life, but none of them were willing to say, I'm going to invest in you until you figure this out. I'm still looking for that person. If you know them, and they could put up with the likes of me, drop me a line. I love to chat with them. But if the challenges that you're facing are more along the lines of, when I look in the mirror, I don't like that person looking at me. The stories that they tell just kind of grate on my soul. I'm not making progress in my life because I feel like I'm fighting against myself. Or I'm leading other people, and I find that sometimes I come home with that imposter syndrome, and they're looking to me for all the answers, and I feel like I got no answers. Or, hey, I've got to stand in front of a crowd and convey hope for the future and advice for today. And I'm not exactly sure how to say it. If any one of those is a challenge that you're facing, let's have a chat, because that's what I do. I'd be delighted to be an advisor, a coach, a mentor in your life. Probably not going to be free. Definitely going to be worth the investment. Emotionally, psychologically, and financially. Try me. Check out my clients. Ask them. Check out the reviews. Ask them. Don't go blindly into it. And don't presume just because you've been a little long in the tooth and you've done all of it that you've got it all figured out and you can do it all on your own. It's not too early to ask for advice, and it's almost never too late to ask for advice. If you're curious whether or not you need help, the answer is yes, you need help. How do I know? Because it's your ego that tells you you don't need any help. If you're willing to say, I think I need some help, you probably don't need as much as you think. But it's still worth getting help, getting coached, getting advised. Get an advisor. Get some advice on the things that you're working on. You may need just a little tweak, a little pop and stretch is all you need, and everything hums along smoothly. It's never too early to ask for advice, and it's almost never too late. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. There is a retreat coming up that I want you to know about. It's called the Story Power Academy Retreat. This Story Power Retreat is about focusing on your communication skills, taking them to the next level. Discover, develop, draft, deploy, and deliver some of the best stories you've ever learned. You're going to listen, create, connect, relax, and reflect around this beautiful lake scene in Granbury, Texas. It's a chance to rejuvenate and refresh and start over with some of the best training you can possibly imagine around storytelling, leadership, and communication. Join us, get away, and relax.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com.